Hi, I'm Scott Schubert, and today I'm going to show you exactly how to trade gold. And I don't mean go down to this firm and here you can buy some bullions. I mean, how do you actually trade gold, entering and exiting, going long or short, being able to consistently identify turning points on any time frame and have it work out. So let's get started with that right now. If you know someone who may benefit from watching this video, just share it to them directly so that they can get the benefit from this and find out exactly how to trade gold as I'm about to show you right now. More and more in my own trading, I love trading gold and am often considering just trading it exclusively because it's really very reliable and responds very well to the skill of being able to identify turning points, which I show in all the rest of my videos. So how do I actually trade gold and get these incredible results? I'm showing you right now, and it's very important that you keep an open mind and notice if you start to reject what I'm saying, because if that's what's happening, your subconscious mind may be programmed to reject the truth because what I'm showing you is true. And if you really want to know how to trade gold, this is actually how you do it. So how do you do it? The way that you do it is to learn the skill of reading chart patterns on all time frames. Now, if you've been involved in trading, you may have come across all different kinds of trading methods and trading strategies, and you can try all of them. Sometimes they will work and sometimes they will not. That's true of every trading strategy. But if you come across something that consistently works a high percentage of the time, you know that you have discovered something, and you could have discovered something true about financial markets. So that's what this is all based on, is the ability to read financial markets and discover what's true about financial markets in terms of the visual shapes that they make as they're moving along, making what seems to be sometimes chaotic, unpredictable movements. But in the end, it all has a certain type of pattern behavior that can be recognized, not every bit of it, but if you are very selective about why you enter trades and you only enter a trade when you can clearly identify what is happening, then you will get excellent results. So this has been going on for a long time, this relationship that I have with gold. So what you do is you learn to read chart patterns on all time frames. And then the second thing is you learn to identify turning points, which are the end of a trend and the end of a correction. There are many people in the industry who believe that that's not possible to do. That's great. I love to hear that, but it is possible to do. And if you would like to know how to do it, I will show you right now. So the first thing you do is you go to even the monthly time frame and you read this pattern. Now, in order to read this pattern, you would have to have invested a lot of time and practice in reading patterns. It's probably making a correction to this trend. This is clearly a trend over here on the monthly, and this is probably a correction on this side of the chart. You know, people have different long-term views about gold, and maybe it's just going up forever. And even if this is an ABC, whether it's an ABC or whether it's a 1, 2, 3, and hold on for a second. I apologize if I said ABC or 1, 2, 3, and there may be some people out there who take offense to that. But if you really want to know what financial markets do, you have to look at a chart and you have to agree that what it did here is exactly what financial markets do. You can't deny what financial markets do. If you keep on denying and say, it didn't do that, it didn't do what's on this chart, that would be insane. So you don't want to go down the route of insanity. You want to be able to look at this chart and know that that is true, that the market did what's on this chart. So I'm just describing what the market actually did. Whatever terms I use, I could look on here and say, well, the chaos theory says this. Or if I said something else, support and resistance or something else, the market did this. And if you can see it, then you can trade. So what it's doing right now is forming the shape of a trend. And for a long time, I have considered this to be the shape of a 1, 2, 3. Even if this is making a C, it's a 1, 2, 3 of C. To get further into that, you would have to have some background in Elliott wave science, which I say science because it's not a theory, because this is what markets do. Markets did this, what's on this chart. And we're just describing what it did. And it did this right here too. So the first thing you want to do is to learn to recognize where there's impulsive price action and where there's corrective price action. And if you can do that, you can identify the end of a trend or the end of a correction. I can show you how to do it. I probably would not be able to show you how to do it in one YouTube video, and it takes some time and practice, but you can learn how to do it, and I will show you as much as I can in this one video right now. So I'm going to go from the monthly down to the weekly. Now I see this 1, 2, 3, and it's still going up. But in the past, back here, we identified this point as a place to go long. And that was a fantastic day. It was a fantastic trade. And we identified one specific point right there where we went long. And sometimes I have showed this on charts before, and people have said, you're just pointing at something in hindsight. And obviously, that's ridiculous, because when I did this trade in our live sessions, and I recorded it and put a video up of this happening, I was not doing it in hindsight, right? So let's just forget that whole idea, because it's totally false. And if you say that I'm doing this in hindsight, you're just actually trying to deny what's true. You're trying to push away what's true and not learn what markets do, so that you won't be able to make money. So make sure that if that's what you're doing, we're going to work on your subconscious blocks, because that's what causes that to happen. Causes it to happen in a lot of people. They could be sitting there right now trying to say something negative as I'm showing you how to trade and make money for the rest of your life. It should be very positive, and you should be very happy about it. So we identified this point. This is the end of a correction. And I could show you exactly how to identify an end of a correction. That's a whole nother subject. It would take several videos to show you all the details of how to identify the end of a correction. But you can see right here, this is the end of a correction, and that's what we identified. And that's where you'd want to enter. Is it true? Do you now realize that it's true that identifying the end of a correction is the most profitable strategy for ever entering a trade? It's not possible to get more profit than by identifying the end of a correction. Think about that for a minute. Hopefully, most of you don't have to think about that for very long. You instantly realize that that is true. And if you instantly realize that's true, we can move forward to refining that skill. But a lot of people will go, no, the end of a correction isn't the place to enter. And for that, I'd have to slap you. I'd have to stick it in your face. I have to, can you see it? Can you see it? Can you see it? Do you know it's true? Do you know it's true? Or you know that it's true. Hopefully, if you know that it's true, then we could just move forward with how could you do that. Then, next step, I go to the daily, and I see a pattern. If you can't see the pattern, if you don't know what patterns are, then you would be at a disadvantage. But if you can learn to recognize patterns, man, this is why I love gold, is because it is fantastic for identifying pattern turning points. And we've been doing it over and over, right specifically on the point where it's moving, where it's turning. So we identified this point right here, and I realized that this is in the past, and I'm pointing at it in hindsight. So saying that I'm doing that in hindsight won't cause that trade in the past to have been done in hindsight, and we have that all recorded as well. Now, if you look at this point right here, we identified that point on the very moment and the very day to go long. Why? Because that was the end of a correction. So that showed the next movement up on the daily. And we have a recording of us looking at this in our live session, where right at that moment, everyone in the room said, wow, Gold has formed a turn on the daily. Yee! I looked at it and there I could see, oh, it has turned on the daily. And it was right at one specific point. And what an excellent day that was. But for the people who could not identify that, they wouldn't know that. And they would think, well, they don't know how to identify turning points or what a pattern is. So then they're just constantly at a loss of what to do. But this is not about trading on the monthly or trading on the daily, something like that. It's about identifying all turning points on any financial instrument, including gold, on any time frame. So from there, I would drop down to the 12-hour and to the 8-hour, but the whole time I'm imprinting in my mind and seeing a pattern that is communicating to me something that is just like reading a language. It's just like seeing a letter of an alphabet or reading a sentence. And all of this can become that way for you too if you just invest a little bit of time and effort into practicing and getting used to seeing the patterns that markets make. So I've been looking at these patterns every day of my life for many years, and now I can read them, and you don't have to invest years to be able to read these patterns. You can learn to do it almost instantaneously, but it still will take some practice and some time. This point right here, I know that I'm just pointing at it in the past, but that was earlier this week, and I identified that specific point on multiple time frames. This is the 4-hour, but it's on the 4-hour and the 1-hour where I identified this as a turning point and knew that that goal was going to go up and continue the uptrend right from that very point. Let me show you what it looks like on the 1-hour. Photograph this in your mind as I jump to the 1-hour. There it is. You still have that photograph on there. Now you see this shape. Do you see this shape? For some people, you would instantaneously be able to recognize this point right here as a turning point. But for other people, it might take a little bit of practice and some time and guidance. Guidance every day with repetition over and over until you start to get this. This point right here, for someone who knows patterns, you would instantly recognize this is a 3-wave pattern down. This is the last section of the 3 waves. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Divergence, compression, end of a wave 5, turning point, regular thing that you see every day of your life. And every day of your life, it continues to follow through so that you know that that's true about markets. It's not my opinion. It's not my opinion that the market turned there. That's a scientific fact. And it's a scientific fact that I identified that as a turning point. And it could be a scientific fact that you could identify that as a turning point as well. We're not talking about anyone's opinion about how to trade or anything. It's nothing that could generate any argument. There's nothing that you can argue about. That is a turning point. Either you recognized it or you didn't. From that point, the market went up. If you entered there, you got profit. If you did something other than that, you didn't get profit or you didn't get as much. Then right after that, it turned again right here. So then it turned right here. I exited my long after entering right here. So I'm showing you how to trade gold, and you should be getting some ideas right now that there's no way you could trade gold better than this, I don't think. Is it possible? How could you trade gold better than that? And then how is it that you would do this? How can you do this? I'm telling you right now, I'm actually revealing to you exactly how you do it. But there may be a little bit more to it that you would have to learn from practice, right? So if you don't master how to trade gold by watching one video, well, don't get discouraged, because you may want to invest some time and effort into learning something when you consider how valuable it can be to you. So then it formed this correction, and then we identified the end of this correction again for another long entry. And we've been doing that all the way back as far as you can go for several years, all on gold. Every time there's a turning point. If you look at a chart and you see a turning point, what do you recognize as a turning point anyway? Some people might look at this and just see a bunch of chaos, but that's okay. Some people can look at this and see complete order and pattern. And that's what I see when I look on here. I see complete order and pattern. Maybe not absolutely complete. You know, it's got its own little organic twist to the variations of patterns that are continually forming on all financial instruments. But this one, if I go to the 30-minute, maybe even the 15-minute, you will see that this is a correction in an uptrend. And then you can see that this is an end of a correction. You might not be able to recognize that if you don't know how to identify ends of corrections. You may be getting in all over the place and trying it many different times for each correction if you don't really know how to do it. But you can learn how to do it. That part we have proven. So this was identified as an end of a correction. So how do you trade gold? If you want to get profit, you learn to identify impulsive movements, and you learn how to identify what is a trend and what is the shape of a trend. And I can show you all of this stuff because we have live trading sessions every day, because for most people, if you want to learn how to trade, it requires that you immerse yourself into it and have repetition and guidance over a long period of time while you're practicing. You could try to practice it on your own and see what happens, but it is far superior to do it together as a group and to have guidance and repetition every day. Do you understand now? Even if it's just a little bit and you have just made some breakthrough and progress to discovering what's true about how to trade gold, how to trade any financial market. And in this video, have you discovered more about what's true about the market? Because it's on the chart. It's not me saying something. This is on the chart, what I'm talking about, that you would need to discover what's true. That's on the chart. Look at the chart and discover what's true. And when you do discover what's true, it will be this method that I'm showing you. How to identify the end of a correction. How to identify the end of a trend. That's true about markets. And when you gain that skill, no one can take it away from you. You will always have it. And it's worth every minute, every day or hour of anguish and frustration that you may have to go through during the process of learning. It is worth every minute of it. Keep up your motivation. Don't let anyone discourage you if you're learning this particular skill that I'm telling you right now, how to identify the end of a trend, how to identify the end of a correction. If anyone ever tries to discourage you, don't fall for it. Keep on being positive and keep on pushing forward no matter what happens. If you blow 5 live accounts, keep on, come back, fund another account, and keep practicing it. Hopefully you would never have to do that if you're surrounded by other people who are guiding you and helping you along the way. So if you want to know more about what really works in trading, just go to tradingmastermind.com, and you don't have to buy anything because we have a free series of training and videos that you can use to get started and to help you to discover what's really true about markets and what really works in trading. I look forward to seeing you in the next video, and remember to trade deliberately and live your life deliberately as well.